everyone, welcome to the results video for week 4 or round 4 of the 2023 Spacechem tournament. This puzzle was called Upcycling, and the goal of it was to turn these fabric cuts into a cozy quilt. Now, this is a random puzzle, and first I'll explain a little bit about how randomness in Spacechem works, because you don't simply get like uniform or multinomially resampled atom molecules in according to the proportions they're given. What you get is you get them in bags. So for this puzzle, for example, the bag size is 10. So in a bag of 10, you're guaranteed to get exactly the stated proportions within that bag, which means for this puzzle it would be 4 of the 2 corner-shaped pieces and 2 of the square pieces. And knowledge of that was pretty much essential for solving the puzzle inside one reactor. Also, Spacechem, it's random, but it's not. Everyone gets the same seed every time the puzzle is run, so it's exactly the same order for everyone on every run of the puzzle. That makes it so you can compare cycles, but it also means that you can use tricks knowing what the sequence is going to be. So if this was opus magnum, for example, and you had infinite instruction space, you could simply code in, oh, I'm going to receive it in exactly this order. So it might be the third one, then the second one, then the first one, and so on. And you could code your machine to deal with that without like assuming any randomness at all. But that's not really possible in Spacechem with this small reactor size and with needing to make 40 outputs. So, but what you can do is for special speed up tricks, it's often nice to special case the first couple of inputs, so you know what those will be and handle those separately. Or maybe there's a certain random pattern that would break your solution, but you know that it doesn't occur inside the first 40 inputs, and it can never occur inside the first 40 inputs, so you don't need to bother handling it. And that was something I wanted people to try and do for this puzzle, so that's why there's no rules like must run forever or must run for any set of random inputs. That also, and when people use strategies like that rely on some pre-knowledge of what the input stream is going to be, we call it precog. So if I refer to that, that's just what I mean there. To speak about, and moving on, the metric for this puzzle was cycles plus reactors minus 1 times 50,000. So if you had one reactor, which was the goal of the puzzle, the puzzle was intended to be solved with one reactor, you just get your cycle score. But if you have an extra reactor, each reactor is going to cost you effectively 50,000 cycles, which meant that it was completely it was obviously going to be uncompetitive to have more than one reactor, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want people worrying about, oh, if I can have 2 reactors and get some extra handling, can I beat a 1 reactor solution? I wanted it to both be obvious to everyone that any 1 reactor solution would beat any 2 reactor solution, and that anyone who came up with a 1 reactor solution, no matter how slow, would definitely beat the best 2 reactor solution. But I also wanted to give people the option to use up to 8 reactors if they just wanted to solve the puzzle, and they were just submitting for fun or just to have a solve. I think we can. And finally, this backpipe here was to force people not to just discard outputs into a very big long pipe. As I said before, I wasn't going to make this there's no run forever rule. I didn't want to put a run forever rule, both because they're very hard to define and verify, and because I wanted to allow some precog. So an obvious way to solve this this puzzle fairly fast would be to take the input stream, have a set order you want to make your quilt in. So you might want square first and put all the corners around it. And you have a set order you want to do that in. Anything that doesn't fit your order, just throw it away into a waste pipe, let all the waste build up, and hopefully you'll make all the cozy quilts you'll make 40 inputs by the time your waste pipe has filled up, and you will avoid crashing. And I didn't want people doing that, and I didn't want people doing any variant of that, so I enforced a back pipe. Then with a back pipe, I'll explain the obvious way to do this. So to compare to the better solutions later on, which come in like augmentations or advances of the easiest way to do it, which would be to do the same thing as I just described. Take what you want, use it, or else put it away, but put it in the back pipe. So you will first take in your 10 inputs, put them all in the back pipe, cycle through this 10 inputs, which is guaranteed to give you 2 outputs in total. Just cycle through, taking the pieces you need, recycling the ones you don't need until you've made 2 inputs, and then restart the process, so take another 10. And just explain that because a lot of the solutions we'll see will be like building on that. The first one doesn't though, so we'll start with Resunes, who's called the solution just to send something. And yeah, this solution isn't the one reactor, it's the only non-one reactor solution and expectedly comes in last. This backpipe reactor is really awkward to use in a non-one reactor solution, so Resumes just ignores it and solves the solution above it over here. This one is a quite simple method. First, it separates the input into the fabric cuts, into the corner fabric cuts and the square fabric cuts. Then the corner fabric cuts are further separated into their 2 types. So Si2N and N2Si go in different pipes. Now you split the random input into 3 deterministic pipes. So you know that you've got 3 pipes, one of them, each one must have only 1 input. Now, once you've done that, it's easy to build the final shape. Which Resunes does by building a square of the corner pieces, 4x4 out hollow square.
And Jojo, can I say something funny about the atom generation in Spacechem?
Yeah, sure, go on.
Apparently, the seeds that the game uses in the Android version of the game differs from the Steam release.
Yes, they do, and they also used to differ in the Apple Mac version of the game, but then I think that was changed in the Community Edition, so Mac and Windows are the same, because if it would cause problems in tournaments if they weren't. And then to finally make the cozy quilt, you just input the square fabric cut straight in the middle of the 4x4 hollow square, and that is the cozy quilt. I was saying this solution is definitely made kind of for simplicity. This is about the simplest way you could possibly do this puzzle, and everything's just done with a very simple 1 Waldo reactor. so 3596 cycles, which as you can see here would have been the best cycles, but it doesn't matter because they've got 5 reactors, so they have a huge penalty of 250,000. Oh no, 200,000. Next up, we've got counterpoint. Actually, yeah. So there's another one non-one reactor solution. This one by counterpoint with 3 different reactors. So first counterpoint is similar to Resune's did, going to separate out the squares from the corner pieces. But then with 3 reactors rather than 5, you need to do something a little more complex to sort the corner pieces, and this is building towards the 1 reactor approach. So counterpoint is going to put all the corner pieces with 2 ends, so the N2 SIs, into the backpipe, and then store these S2 ends, SI2 ends, inside the reactor. We can go back to the beginning and from the start. Red is going to handle the inputting, and it's going to place these SI2 ends down in a line at the bottom, with these 2 flip-flops, or these 3 flip-flops here, controlling where each one goes, directing them to separate places. And then the SI N2s are just being put in the backpipe. That's too fast. Meanwhile, blue is counting sinks, so this is counts 8 times for the 8 corner pieces you get per 10 molecule bucket. And when that's done, blue takes over from red, and blue handles it from here out, and it's going to put in output the 2 types of corner pieces alternately into this pipe. So now we've turned the random stream into a deterministic stream. It came in a random order. Now we know we're going to get 1 N2SI followed by SI2 ends. And those will go alternately. And now for the final reactor, take off the pauses. Faster too. It's quite slow. So it's going to attach these one by one. And that's the completed shape. So nice job, Counterpoint, in getting this 3 reactor solution and making use of the backpipe reactor, which the last solution didn't. Now we move on to Yellow Bunny, which is first the 1 reactor solution. And this is pretty similar to the algorithm I described at the beginning, where we load up the backpipe with a block of 10 and then pull stuff on the backpipe. However, Yellow Bunny reserves the squares, or I think it's one of the squares. and that's definitely beneficial because the squares happen at half the incidence of the other two pieces. So if you've got to search through the backpack to looking for squares, it takes quite a while. But this one's unusual in that it first loads up 10 into the output, then it will, when it gets to now we will start to search through looking for the piece we want, and that's done with these two sensors here. It's saying that this one and this if you can see this in H2 and the middle block and the corner piece need to be different, and if that's the case, then it adds it to this block here. Outputs that, but now it's only going to input another 5 rather than 10, which is unusual. I'm not entirely sure why Yellow Bunny has decided to do it this way. Maybe they can write a comment in the Spacechem chat to let us know. But it does work, and the reason it works is that they add 10 at the beginning, so they've always got a buffer of 5 in there that they know are form a set. So when they put 10 in, they've got 2 complete outputs in there. Now when they're going to take 5 out, they know now there's 5 complete outputs in there. Now they know there's 1 complete output in there, so 5 atoms. Now they're going to add another 5. Now that you've already got that 5 in there, so whatever the next 5 you add in, it doesn't matter. You will always you will always be able to find a set of 5 that form an output left over from the first one.
So I don't really have a good reason why I did this. This was just the first algorithm that I got to work, and then I went with it and optimized it as good as I could within the remaining 4 hours I had before the deadline.
Okay.
Because I only started working on this today.
Yeah, well, it gives me something different to talk about because, not obvious that this would work, but it does because you've got that buffer of 5 that are always in there. Every even set of outputs you go through. So every time you output every other time you output an output, you've got you've inputted a even multiple of 5. So that's guaranteed to have 10 and be all matching. And then on the odd ones, you're not guaranteed to have input the 5 you've inputted are not guaranteed to make a valid output, but there's that buffer of 5 left there, and then you refill it up with another 5, which gets you back to 10, and then you are guaranteed again. Which I think this is the only solution to do this, which is quite neat. It does mean you have to do some kind of awkward handling about the middle square. Because the middle square could, let's read the notes. Yeah, not sure. I definitely remember there being something about the square, but I remember that this sensor. Sorry.
Can you go to cycle I think it was 2100 or something.
2100. Oh, that's too far. Do you have anywhere I should place a pause to get there quickly? Because I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Not really. I also forgot which cycle it was, but there is a position where the two blocks of 4 atoms get really close to each other, and I had to have some extra casing so that they don't collide.
Oh, okay. I know there's this extra casing near the pores in J6 is in case you get the first one that comes in the sequence as a block. Because normally if you have a block already in, then blue will come along here, grab a block.
That only works if the last of the 5 things that red inputs is a block.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that blue inputs is also a block.
Yes.
If the last thing that red inputs would not be a block but something different, the reactor would actually crash, but this doesn't happen because of the amount of inputs I put in the pipe in the beginning.
Sorry, I'm not sure you got that. That must occur.
If the last thing that red inputs in the set of 5 is a 3-atom molecule,
Yeah.
and then the next thing blue pulls out of beta is immediately a block of 4.
Yeah.
While there isn't already a block of 4 in the upper right corner, then the reactor would crash, but that doesn't happen because of precog reasons.
Doesn't that? I thought this handled that case.
No, this only handles the case when there's a block of 4 atoms at the very end of alpha of the red input, and then immediately after that another block of 4 from beta.
Okay, so thank you. I didn't spot that when I was looking at your solution. I just spotted that if the first one of beta is a block, but red's already got a block, it has to do this extra casing over here, because normally if it blue ever grabbed the block, it would case over here and put in a maker output.
You can get it to crash if you move one of the 2 things that's immediately after the blue start up to H1, where the blue symbol starts. There are 2 things, and move one of them to the top of the row.
Yeah.
Very top. And if you now run it, it will crash at some point because...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, because it doesn't put 10 in, then does it? You put
but it's not because of balancing, but because of timing reasons where atoms crash into each other. Because this uses some kind of precog. But you can run it faster. I don't know when it crashes exactly.
But yeah, you wouldn't put 10 atoms inside in the pipe then, would you? And that would cause it to crash regardless of any timing. Yeah, so it crashes for both reasons then.
I think it might actually be okay with the balancing, but I'm not entirely sure. But it definitely crashes because of the timing of the Waldos.
Okay, thank you, Yellow Bunny. Move on to Dariush's solution, Ultra Jank. So Dariush is another one that did things a bit differently to everyone else, which is quite cool. So, first you notice red doing some sinks at the top, where it can never reach again. So that's a good sign that it's doing something with precog.
Hi, welcome to my solution. It is terrible.
What it's doing here is making sure that it puts the first block in the back pipe, because if it just started, if you remove those sinks, you would pick up the first block and have nothing to attach to it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as you can see, the ratio of the channels, the bottom to top channels is 5:4.
Yeah. So
Meaning that after the bottom channel, we are going to the top 3 times out of 4, if I remember correct. Yes, 3 times out of 4. If you change anything at all about the solution, it will crash. Fun.
Yeah, so now we can see it. He grabs a block. Now we'll see it start to add on to it. What it's just doing is it detects that the right piece is there, and if the right piece is there, it grabs on. If not, it misses it and blue out, puts it into the back pipe. So that one is the right piece. So we use these sensor arrays here to know that. Curiously, this one doesn't have any counting to 10 condition to decide when to start taking stuff out of the back pipe and when to start inputting stuff. Instead, it waits until you've got three quarters of the corner pieces attached, at which point now you swap.
Oh, we do? I don't actually remember. I thought it was supposed to be after the whole piece is complete.
It looks to me like it's 3/4 or
Yeah.
4 to the 5 pieces in.
Yeah, I think I messed up my detection. Oh well.
Well, it works, and it wouldn't be much different score if it did 4. And now what Darius was saying earlier is this sensor right here detects, so when it reaches the third 3/4 of the pieces attached, it will switch. But on the 4th time it does blue, it will redo blue once, so you end up in a ratio of 5:4. I think Darius implied that. Did you just try things and this is what you found worked?
Yeah, this is how do I say it? You need exactly 2 things. Exactly this configuration, meaning every fourth time we skip and repeat the bottom channel. And you need to repeat from this. You need to start from this exact orientation of the square piece. If you rotate the square piece, or you change the number of things, or you change any arrows on the flip flops, the whole thing crashes.
Yeah.
Either the self-referential channel overfills, or it empties out, and the solution stalls.
Yeah. And it still does crash, but with this specific configuration, the crash happens after the 40 outputs.
Yeah, exactly.
So
thank you for not requiring this time a wasteless solution. Well, it's technically not wasteless, but finite.
Yeah, thank you, Darish. Next solution is from Norris, the team, Norris Fat Jam, which is anime and that Margarita Kid. Can look. This solution is the closest to the basic algorithm I described at the beginning that we've seen so far, but it's going to again reserve the blocks, the square pieces. Put everything else in the back pipe, count to 10, and when that's done, with blue, red will just go through. If it's what it wants, it will attach it, or bond and attach it. If it's not what it wants, it will discard. And it just uses these 2 sensors here to do it. Again, I think it's that's a sensor on. Yeah, I think that's a sensor. So that and this should be opposite, or they should be different atoms. Or should they be the same atom? No, they should be the same atom on this one. Okay. Yeah, this is fairly conceptually simple. You can see why it's guaranteed to work for any input stream. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. And down here, this is the flip-flop array that is used to detect when it's done. So, 4 pieces on, it will be done with 1/2 of it. Or it'll be done with one cozy quilt. And it just goes around, makes the oven where blue is on the stalling on sync, so once it stalls on syncs twice, it has 2 sets of syncs to stall on for the 2 cozy quilts you get out for every 10 inputs you input. And yeah, nice solution, good, simple, understandable, fairly fast. Next we move on to Foxadecimal, who calls it the obvious approach, which it is not really. So it's, well, obvious in concept. You input stuff. If it's what you want, you add it on, or else you put it in the back pipe, and then you take stuff out of the back pipe to add on later. But it's not at all obvious, at least it wasn't to me, how you'd actually implement that. But Foxadecimal's found a way. Yeah, first we're going to look for the square piece to start it off. Next, we alternately use these sensor arrays to tell whether, so it will go through this one searching for the N2 SI piece and attach it if it finds it, but goes up here if it doesn't find it, or goes back here if it, but then it will next time pass through this flip-flop, as we'll see, and go to this sensor array down here, which is searching for the opposite piece. So it's searching for the SI2N. When that's done, when that's found, put it in and keep doing this. Yeah, now it uses this sensor here and these sensors over here to tell when it's done, at which point it can be outputted and go down to this bottom left sensor array, which is again looking for the square piece. It's got the square piece, it can just do exactly what it did before. Some subtleties about this solution is that the square piece can either come, or any piece can either come out of the input pipe or the back pipe, and both cases have to be handled in the same way. So there's got to be some quite clever pathing on red to make sure that to blue, the 2 cases look the same. Except for the one case, that's the first square. The first square you get in a set of 10, you know is the first piece you take, so you know that's got to be from the input. It can't have come out of the back pipe. So that can be handled differently for a speed up, which is exactly what Foxadecimal does. That on the second what? So every two outputs you make, and you're starting a new set of 10. Foxadecimal goes over here, and that's just makes the handling of the first square faster. It means red is routed up to over here to drop it, but on the second square, red will route down here, go over here, so place it on top of the sensor array, so blue can detect it over there, which is what would need to be done, which is where it would be inputted if it came out of the back pipe. So, and how red knows what it to get from the back pipe and to get from the input. It counts the inputs to 10, and then in the back pipe it counts until you have 2 outputs. It uses that sensor there and that flip-flop there. So if we did that. So I'm not sure why I went up there. Okay, so for the second one it goes over there, and then I must have just missed the first one. And then for the next one it'll start a new set of 10. And then right. So yeah, good job, Foxadecimal. That's a good solution. 8,313 cycles, so getting down in the cycle count. Next up we have, this is whoever, yeah. So whoever's solution is quite similar to Norris Fat Jams, but it does the sensing slightly differently and is quite a bit faster. The main reason for that is just tighter loops. This time we're going to use blue to handle the inputting process, and red is going to count. It's not quite counting to 10, it counts to something else and then it delays for a bit. So it knows that blue will have done 10 inputs by the time it gets to starting. Blue also hits the sync more than once on some of the runs through, so that breaks what it's counting to as well. But the way whoever's worked it out, it all works. It's effectively doing the count to 10, but in a slightly funky way. And red is just going to go through putting on the pieces it wants, backpiping the pieces it doesn't want. And how it when it gets a piece it wants, it attaches it on, and then that changes the direction it goes in. So this flip-flop is only hit when it's attached to piece, and that will determine whether it's looking for a nitrogen piece to attach or a silicon piece. So in case the nitrogen corresponding to the one that's got 2 rather than the middle atom. So it finds the piece it wants, and now it will, well, that's an output, but if it hadn't, it would next time we go through this array, you'll pass down here and look for Si2n. But that doesn't work if you're inputting, if you put the corner in the back pipe, because then there could be any number of corners going in the back pipe before you need to next go over here. So you can't just hit a flip-flop because you'll switch without knowing how many times you switched. So to solve that problem, whoever uses this sensor here and this sensor here and this sensor command here, and that will direct it the correct direction depending on what it's just trashed. So if it's just trashed a nitrogen piece, it knows it's not looking for the nitrogen piece, so it directs it to the sensor for the silicon piece. And we can see that. Next time it trashes something, so this is going to be put into the back pipe, and now it hits that sensor here there because it had a nitrogen piece looking for a silicon piece. Yeah, that's fairly understandable why this works, but it's so similar to as Norse fat jams, but a bit more complicated pathing, which ends up quicker. It doesn't look like it'll be quicker, but I think blue is quite quick in putting stuff in back pipe. Still, this solution suffers from the problem of only having one Waldo doing stuff at once. So blue does the entire back pipe filling, and then red does the entire construction. And that was a really hard problem to get around to solve. Even the better solutions are struggling a little bit for parallelism. Just something to keep in mind. Next up we have Darius 1, who's got the nightmare of a solution. The first thing Darius 1 does is he is going to load up 10 inputs into the back pipe straight away. And he keeps he knows that's a nitrogen, that's precogged. So that's just on this nitrogen sensor here, keeping blue going round in this loop, which is that loop. And now once it's done that, red is counted to, I think it's 10, but I'm not entirely sure. It moves that nitrogen out of the way, and blue leaves that path, putting the final piece to the back pipe. And now it never does that again. It is on a completely separate loop, and it will never fill the back pipe like it just did again. What we've got here is we start looking in the back pipe, seeing if we've got the right thing. When we find the right thing, we put it on, and then blue goes over here, grabs an input, and red starts looking in the back pipe for what it wants. Blue doesn't want that, so it puts in the trash, in the back pipe. Now it does the same. Now it's looking for a square. There is a square up here, but it can't find it, so it's looking in the back pipe for a square, which takes a while because they're rarer. And Darius one told me that it maintains 9 molecules in the pipe, and only one of those is guaranteed to be a square, so it's a 1 in 9 chance of getting it when it runs through. Or it's 1 in 9, however many times it needs to go through. And it does the same process. This works out so that every time you use something from the back pipe, you put another thing into the back pipe. But that's going. You can get input streams that it likes from the input, and it will just use the input for a while. I haven't seen it yet. I think it's going to use that, but then it can't use the next one. Yeah, I haven't found it, but it will have strings where it will just use the input pipe for a bit and have a net transfer of nothing into the back pipe. So I spoke to Dyson, and Dyson said he's pretty sure this works forever, but I don't know why. I don't know what guarantees that you won't fill up the back pipe with only one type of atom. I know you're guaranteed to never fill it up. I'm not sure how you can guarantee that you always have the right stuff in there and that you always have a square. But Dyson says he's pretty sure it works like that, and I checked it and it appeared to run for a very large number of cycles. For exactly why I couldn't say. Yeah, nice job, Dice One, with score of 7,700 cycles. So we're still going in fairly small jumps, but nice job coming up with such a complicated solution. I don't know how it works. And next we have a slightly less complicated solution from Spit or Shampoo, who's quite good at getting these very simple but high scoring solutions. This solution is fairly like Nosh Fat Jam and I think it was whoever's solution, but with more parallelism in that blue handles, apart from the squares, blue's going to always handle rejected pieces and red's going to handle accepted pieces. At the moment it's filling the back pipe, so red's not going to there can't be any accepted pieces when it's filling the back pipe, so red is just bringing the pieces down for blue to grab in a slightly more convenient location. And we reserve the squares as well. now the backpipe is filled, red can start. Yeah, it's grabbed by blue if red doesn't want it, and grabbed. And red grabs it if it wants it, or else it leaves it, and then blue will come and get it. This continues quite simply like that until it detects it's done with these two sensors at the top, in which case the first time it completes one, it will go down here, output, and put the next square piece in the center, and repeat what it was just doing. And finally, that is 2 pieces, and now it restarts filling the backpipe up again, which is now empty. So fills that back up again, as we've seen other solutions done previously. So a score of 7,557 cycles, another fairly small jump from the last one. Nice job, Spitwell Shampoo, on getting probably easily the most simple solution we'll see from here on out. Up next is Team Chicxulub, which is Rex Kicks, Lazy Comet, and Brookios. They've combined to form Team Chicxulub and have made this solution. This is the solution when I saw that I was thinking, oh, why didn't I think of that? For quite a while I think it was the top solution as well. This is another simple way to a good score found by Team Chicxulub. What they do first is they precog out the first, they remove the first 2 blocks, and the other 8 corner pieces from the first bucket of 10 get put in the backpipe. The 2 blocks are just put off to the side over here, and this works. Doing some precog, it won't work for every arrangement of the 2 blocks.
I magically found that precog in like 5 minutes. It used to be a massive flip-flop delay line. It was like, hey, we just can't count silicons. It happens like 3 times. Let's just go do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, by putting all of these, by taking out the first 2 squares, we know we'll at least always have in the backpipe 2 full sets of Cozy Cult parts to draw from.
Yes. So once you've put 2 squares here, what this is going to do, as you'll see now, is it's going to just use a similar backpiping algorithm, but only for the corner pieces. So input until the algorithm so far is input until we get a square. Then when you get a square, backpiping algorithm only with the corner pieces. Now it's done, and then so you can imagine that if you're getting a square, the worst case, the case where we'd have the least amount of corner pieces inside the backpipe, will be the case where you get 2 squares as the first 2 atoms in the bucket of 10, which I believe does happen in the set. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it does occur within the 40 inputs. And if that occurs, then Team Chicxulub know they've got exactly enough corner pieces already in the back pipe to fit those 2 squares. And when those 2 squares are done, then you're guaranteed that the next 8 atoms are all corner pieces, so you fill up again back to your original steady state of having 8 corner pieces in the back pipe.
I don't know if that's the exact number, but I know that we just keep grabbing inputs until we grab a corner piece. And just because of our preloading at the beginning, we should always have enough to make at least one quilt.
Yeah. Ooh. Maybe. If you put in 10, it's guaranteed to work for any input stream. I didn't actually count though. So, but I believe that there is a case where the 2 squares are the 2 first atoms, in which case you would need to put 10 in. You would need to put 8 corner pieces in. In order to sense the corner pieces, as we've seen before, we've got 2 sensor arrays here, which are just looking for it alternately goes to one, and it's like a state machine solution from computation rounds, where the last one was a silicon piece, so now it's looking for a one with the nitrogen in the bottom right, in the middle atom. And when it finds it, now it can go and look for one that's got silicon in the middle atom. And of course, if it doesn't find it, then it hits the sink, and Red will come and collect the piece and put in the back pipe. It's a lot of this kind of stuff up here is because Team Chicxulub parallelize their back pipe filling. So when this is done and it's looking for a square piece, this is done by both red and blue in parallel. So both red and blue have to be able to handle each other finding the square piece. And that's what all these sensors and this kind of complex logic in this middle section of the solve is doing. Nice job, Team Chicxulub, on this pretty neat solution. Don't think anyone else thought to do this. A unique algorithm. Now this is, I think, our first really big jump as we get closer to the top at 5652 cycles, which is, let's see, the last one gets. So yeah, almost 2000 cycles better than the solution just behind them. For the longest time, until I think yesterday afternoon, this solution was second place. So, and there's a few more big jumps to go. So the score distribution everyone was quite low. But thankfully, people improved, and now score distribution isn't so skewed. So first up of the next set of solves would be Tough Thought. Tough Thought presents a new set of solves, a new solving paradigm, which I think is all the solves we'll be seeing from here to the top, where we're going to sort the pieces before we put them in the back pipe. In this And something else all these top solves do is they'll have one wall that will handle one of the types of corner pieces and the square pieces, and the other wall that will handle the other type of square pieces. Tough Thought is the only other person that the first person to notice that you can make the cozy quilt without putting the square in the middle. You can have the square at the corner and use two of the same corner pieces in an arrangement like this, and attach the square in this top corner here, and that will give you a quilt as well. That turns out to be quite useful because it means you can stack two of the same pieces on top of each other. So for this solution, for example, they know they're going to receive. So if this is the second S2N, by construction, they would have received the first one first, so they can safely tuck the first one behind the second one without knowing you're not going to go through it because they're defined by their order.
Are they building both quilts at the same time?
So?
Are they building both quilts at the same time? One in the beta zone, one in the output omega zone?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we'll see when the solution starts to get to the end. Put that in there, and now put the final piece in, which is the square that's being set aside. I think, unless we're going to take another square. No, that's the final piece. And Form Plus, and that's a complete quilt. Now, because of how the atoms were arranged on the omega output before they were outputted, they all come in exactly a quilt formation, and they can be simply carried over to the output. What's really challenging about doing this type of solution is making sure that for every random input set you get, you're not going to crash. So you're not going to, because everything's going in different places and staying on the board, you want to make sure you're never going to move through another molecule. Which Tough Thought greatly reduced their chances of doing this by taking the first two for the molecule that's going to be for the cozy quilt that's built over the beta input, where these collisions are an issue. It's going to take the first two Si2Ns and the last two N2Sis to make the quilt. But this means that the last two, but now you can see once it's put that piece in, there's no way to get these two pieces in, which means that in order for this to work, the second Si2N must come before the last N2Si, which happens to be the case for all output streams up to the 20th, all input streams up to the 20th bucket, which is how much you need to make the cozy quilt. So this is fine, but it won't be fine if you run forever. Tough Thought were good to notice that aspect, which greatly simplified constructing this, because it'll be very awkward if you couldn't do this. You'd probably have to construct it in the middle, and that would get in the way of everything else to be able to access it for all sides to work for an arbitrary input stream. But fortunately, you didn't have to. It's built, done. Another thing Tough Thought pointed out to me about this solve is they don't count to 10 to do the inputs. They're only counting to 8, and red can count to 8 up here with this flip-flop array, and red will have 2 cases where it hits a sync an extra time. But those are so that one is going to hit the sync, and that gets blue started a bit faster without having to wait for red to go all the way back up here to hit the sync. Blue can start, and if the next input is grabbable by it can grab it. If not, it will have to wait for red to find its way back. But there's a lot of cases where that saves time, and it's just done so that it happens on the second and third corner piece input that red grabs, so it's guaranteed to never be the last piece, because the last piece that red grabs will either be the fourth corner piece or the second square. Or maybe it's blue that grabs the square, so it might just be the fourth corner piece. But if it's the second and third one, which it is, it's guaranteed not to have to worry about this flip-flop up here. Yep. Nice job, Tough Thought, on finding this quite complicated way to solve it. Getting down another fairly large jump to score 5086. This method is essentially how I imagined people are going to solve it, how I imagined the top solutions would do it. I never managed to do it myself in my testing. I tried, but I couldn't quite get it done. So well done, Tough Thought, and well done to everyone here on out who managed to get these more complicated puzzle piece solves working. Up next we have Zig. Zig is going to put the first 2 SI2Ns in the back pipe, always, as well. So in this solution, red's handling the SI2Ns and blue's handling the N2SIs, and I think blue handles the squares as well. So the first 2 SI2Ns go in the pipe. You know that's safe because you know you're always going to have to put 2 in the pipe, and none of these overlap each other. So these four down here, these 4 corner pieces can go in whatever order. It doesn't matter what order they come out of this pipe, because they're all going to come out, or going to be inputted sequentially, and then so it doesn't matter what order they come in, but you've got to only put 2 in, and if you're going to back pipe as Zig does, which Tough Thought didn't, you back pipe more than 1 set. So you back pipe, I think everything goes in the back pipe apart from the square pieces.
I do a full bucket before I do the square pieces, before I construct them.
Yeah. So a full bucket gets back piped, right?
Yeah, I use weird stalls and delays to make sure that the 4 sets of 4 don't get overlapped.
Yeah. But you'll run into an issue here because all 4 of the N2 SIs, there's C's on here for some reason.
Yeah, I only stall one of them, so I can't handle quadruple NI. I can handle triple, I think.
Yeah. But I think you can only handle triple in some cases because you stall up here.
Yeah, that's the third I guess N corner, whatever you want to call it. The third red one, green one. But yeah, the purple one, I don't like drop it like that. I just stall it long enough to make sure that the other ones have completed. I just slow them down.
Yeah, so I was saying
So the weird flip flop on the in the top right is the most efficient way to stall it long enough. And it doesn't actually need to stall until like some of the end buckets, so it actually is faster on the first few. It stalls for less time.
Yeah.
So all of if you notice, the flip flops all in the top right are all primed the wrong way on purpose, so that it doesn't actually stall as long in the first few passes.
Yeah, so I was going to explain that the stall up here is to play it out. That the issue is that if you have to put in a pair of 2 N2 SIs and 2 SI2's ends before you'd start any of the next set of 4. And that gets problematic, say, if you get 4 N2 SIs at the beginning. SIG doesn't, but if you did, you would have to pull them over to the side somewhere. But you do get...
You do get 4 of the other ones.
You do get 4 of the other ones, so these ones are pulled off to the side. But SIG works out that you never get 4 of that one, so you're safe to just put them in the pipe, and you know that the order is going to be right up to the 40th output.
Yeah, and you can't even drop them and not output them, because there's no way to change the output priority. Like the one that got inputted first will always get outputted first.
Yes.
Because you can't do debonds or anything to even manually change the priority. So yeah, there blue does not actually stall.
Put it on the pause. So this is the third output. Yeah, this is the third output. The third N2 SI output that blue's trying to do, and the first one, it knows it's got things in the right order already, so it can just output it. But there comes a case where that's
still not this one.
It goes all the way to the end.
This one's still a useless stall. I couldn't stop it from priming that fast. Yeah, there.
Is it this one?
Here it goes just slightly after red. Yeah.
So in that one, finally, that stall just delays it long enough so that red could get out that piece before blue put in this piece. So that would be the second SI2N just before the third N2SI.
Yeah, other than that, the construction is pretty easy because of how they're arranged.
Yeah. And apart from that quirk, it's otherwise fairly easy. Once everything's in here, obviously you can just input it, and it's really easy to make the block and transport it over. Nice job, Zig, on your just in the top. This is the top 3, so nice job on the podium. 3rd place. I think this one's a fairly big. Oh, still got that pause.
Yeah, I for the life of me, I could not drag it under 4,000. I tried really hard last night.
So I tried to get under 4,000. Yeah, just above 4,000. So up there with the good solutions, the best solutions, and that is another fairly big jump from Tough Fort, jump of 1,000 cycles. Now we have Andy, who has the most complicated solution, I think, out of everyone. Just run it for a bit so we can appreciate it before I try to explain it.
Oh, does he skip the pipe for the first set and put the squares in the pipe instead? That's cute.
Yeah, the first square goes in the pipe, the second square doesn't go in the pipe.
How do you make sure that that works? Oh my god.
It doesn't work for every case, I'm pretty sure.
That's crazy case handling.
So Andy wrote, if you look at Andy's solution name, it goes off the edge. Andy wrote his solution notes in the solution name. And if you get out the bot export and read it, you'll say that it can't handle the first, can't handle the second square before the first N2 SI2. So that one goes in the bottom right. That goes through everything. That gets put through the square, if the square was there, but the square is not there, so it can just go through. And the square can go on top. This piece here is put in from the side, so this can come in after the square, but this one can't. Andy actually remarking that that case where the second square comes before the first SI, or the first NSI2s is happens on output 41. So only just works.
Yeah, I did notice that the 41 first bucket had a lot of purples coming first.
So I guess that means what I said too about Chicxuloob's solution was wrong, that there's no case where the two squares coming first, because that would break this solution. So maybe they count to some number less than 10 and it works out. I don't know.
I'm just thinking now, I never actually tried only storing one square. It was worth a shot, I guess.
Worth a shot, yeah. I think you drastically reduce the chances of it working if you backpipe that little.
Yeah, like the third bucket has two squares right away, so you need to do something about that. Or within the first three.
How does this work then if the third bucket's got two squares right away? That's good.
Sorry, not right away. As in two of the first three are squares.
Okay.
But not exactly the first two, yeah.
Yeah, luckily for Andy, that means the first one would be SI2N, so put that in. And it is similar to 2 or 3 we've seen previously that have red handle one of the corner pieces and the square, and blue handle the other corner piece. So, and yeah, this works pretty similarly to Tough Thoughts and Ziggs. I'm not sure why it's so much higher symbol, so much more complicated looking. Possibly
he's doing extra case handling to like tell whether the square needs to go to the left or to the right. I handle all my squares the same way, so but somehow he managed to pack all that padding in, so it's faster.
Yeah. There's not that much more handling, really, just the squares.
Yeah, but other than that, it's kind of all the same. So it's a few extra symbols over mine.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe a lot of like small micro optimizations.
Yeah, I mean, I also packed mine full of crap because it saved like 10 cycles sometimes.
Yeah.
To like put random sensors on the pads. So.
Overall, pretty similar to the last algorithm. Just a little bit faster.
Yeah, I think it's like a better algorithm because it gets to put more stuff in the bottom left near the input. But it also pays for that complexity and parallelism, so it actually works out almost the same, but a bit faster.
You have to backpipe more.
Yeah, I have to backpipe more, but my pathing is simpler, so I think I end up almost catching up.
The Tough Thought is more similar to Andy than you were, but he was also a huge amount of symbols and really horrible pathing, so maybe Andy's just winning on the pathing here. Now we get to first place, so congratulations GG Goal on your first place. I believe it's your first this tournament, but nice job. It's similar to the three previously, where it has two of the wall, a corner piece and the square handled by one of the Waldos, and then the other one handles the other corner piece. But he also finds Tough Thought's method of making this cozy quilt. It means putting these first we fill up we put in SI2 ends. The first SI2 end gets put down here, the second one gets put aside for later. Then this method, similar to Tough Thought, of making the N2 SI pieces into two chevrons put together, means that you can handle them the same because you can bond and automatically move it out of the way, which is greatly reduces the amount of pathing and logic, which makes it a lot simpler. And as Zig was just saying, the simpler you make it, the more freedom you get to have efficient pathing. So that's probably, that I'd imagine, ends up being quite a big saving for this solution. Assuming we put the other stuff into the back pipe, or no, we reserve it to make sure we get the right set of things in the back pipe, because this is kind of a combination of Tough Thought / Andy and Zig, where Zig backpiped all his corner pieces, Tough Thought and Andy only backpiped one output's worth. GG Goal backpipes the N2 SI pieces both times, but only backpipes the rest of the pieces once.
Yeah, I think with that clever push with the bond makes it so that it costs almost nothing to put everything in the pipe for those ones. And it probably makes his pathing a lot better.
The push with the bond, this thing, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, he only has to drop it in the top left corner of the output zone. It's not so far away.
And it means that every one of these SIN2 pieces is being handled exactly the same way. Whereas a more complicated solution would have 4 different paths to put these pieces in individually. But this one can just do it in one go and then output it. But that does mean the complexity of having to put all this stuff in the reactor to begin with, because you have to make sure that goes through before any of the other pieces of the second cozy quilt. So that's got to be stored out of the way. That could just go through now, but you can't. This solution doesn't guarantee that it's already put the first.
Because the bond will change the input priority on the nitrogen stuff. So you probably could just drop the third right in the output zone and it would be correct. I don't know, maybe not. I was speculating about whether both of those ones that you source in the top left, the SI2 ends have to be outside the output zone or not. But anyway, right.
Yeah, I don't know. And now once its nose has done everything, now it can start both constructing the first cozy quilt and putting the second pieces for the second one into the back pipe. From this point on, it doesn't matter what order they go into the back pipe. And it uses red to actually put one in without going in the back pipe at all. Saves a little bit of time there. So you don't have to wait for it to go round. And then that's the second piece. This one is, I think in this case, blue. No. So I don't think I spoke about the other solutions, but a way to get this a solution like this always moving is to have the output that's just grabbed something, the order that's just grabbed something inputs the next thing, and that means that that means you're guaranteed to always input a thing. You don't have to do any weird logic where red is going around or one of your orders is going around on a loop saying, if I don't grab something, I still need to input. If I don't grab something, I still need to input and then go back round. And it also means that you can have both of your orders doing stuff in parallel if you're careful about how you path them around each other. So you can see it almost done, so we'll get an example soon. And now, yes, the red's down here, it's just inputted alpha, and blue doesn't have to wait for red to get back up to the top. It can just start. And the same would be true if blue inputted something for red to grab, which it didn't that time. And now blue's inputted something for red can get going while blue goes handling the last piece. Yeah, now it is done. How it detects being finished is it just red needs to count to 4, blue needs to count 2 square pieces and 4 corner pieces. And when it counts either 4 corner pieces or 4 square pieces, which we will see just in a bit. So I think, yeah, this is the 4th corner piece. Blue will hit this 4 count flip-flop. And then it will go over here, hit that flip-flop. And then for the second square, you're going to hit that flip-flop again, and this time be directed down rather than up. So this flip-flop is hit whether you count 4 corners first or 4 squares first. Once you count 4 corners first, you know the next one's going to be a square, so you don't have to worry about hitting this twice from the same side or anything like that. And now the text is done, it can do the output sequence. Backpiping the remaining pieces and then finally putting that last piece done into place. Everything put together. Bring over and output. So, nice job, GG Goal, on your first place with a cycle count of 3,856, which was pretty amazingly only just slower than the 5 reactor solution we saw at the beginning. I know that wasn't a particularly super optimized 5 reactor solution, but pretty cool that it's only just slower than. And this is where you can see just how much these top 3 were better than the rest. And Tough Thought is most of the way there with the pre-sorting the inputs before you put them in the backpipe approach was clearly the fastest, and I'm sure many people knew this if they managed to go through the suffering to make it work. Very well done to everyone who managed to do that. For fun solutions, we only have one fun solution, which is by Yellow Bunny, a single Waldo solution. These things everywhere. And this one is 5 reactors again. It's pretty much fairly identical to what Verzoon's did, which was Verzoon's solution was also single Waldo. Just to recap that, it's split out the corners from the square pieces, then split the corners from each other, and then put the corners in a hollow 4x4 square. Now when that's constructed, all you need to do is input the hollow 4x4 square around the outside of the small square, and then it's done. Very simple, we saw it in the very first solution. Nice job on the one Waldo solution, Yellow Bunny. So this comes in at 3,211 cycles. So this was actually the fastest solution submitted all week. I think that's it for this round. I'll briefly introduce next puzzle, Cosmological Woes. This puzzle is to turn these nitric acids into a little rocket ship, and the metric to do this in is Waldo path, which is a bit of an unusual metric. So I made, and because we've had a few hard puzzles in a row, I aim to make this puzzle slightly easier. I hope I haven't made it too easy, but the idea is that these nitric acids, lots of the Falcon Heavy looks a bit like parts of the nitric acid, but it doesn't look that much like it, so you've got to do some rearranging of the nitric acids, and there's some symmetry, but it's not totally symmetric like week 1 was. You have to do a bit more special casing than there. And I think, yeah, that's it. I also gave you some swappers, which I haven't used so far in the tournament, but they're quite useful at instantly breaking bonds and moving atoms around the screen. Also, to explain the metric Waldo path, if you haven't heard of it before, Waldo path is defined as the total amount of path covered by these red lines, this red and blue line. So, for example, this would have a total Waldo path of 5 plus 6 plus 5, 11.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing I think wasn't mentioned in the rules. The bot does count, even if you have a single Waldo solve and the other Waldo's just like sitting against the wall, it still counts as one unless you have it overlapping one of the other Waldo's paths.
Oh,
otherwise it'd be
I
like
thought that was
case.
implicit, but maybe I should make that explicit. That
some people think it should be counted as 0, but yeah, I'm
if
hard
it's
and
just
fast. It's colored.
So the start counts as a square.
So anyway, just so you know, if you're accounting for a single Waldo solve being like lower for that.
If you're going to do a single Waldo solve, and for Waldo path solve, you probably don't want to go to the edges of the reactor, so that would still count, but you
could shove it against the right wall there, yeah.
You could just make a square inside the other Waldo path footprint if you wanted to.
Or that.
Because in a Waldo path solve, you're probably not going to be reaching or you might not want to reach the edges of the reactor. I haven't looked at any of the solves for this, by the way, so not like giving anything away. But yeah, so you could do something like that if you wanted a single Waldo solution, or maybe kits for Yellow Bunny. But so as we implied there, the main thing I was going to say is that overlapped Waldo paths only count for 1. So this red and blue path together only count for what the red path does, because the blue path is contained inside the red path. Another thing to say is that unreachable bits of Waldo path are also counted if Zig can confirm. So this up here will be counted, even though it's never going to go there in this particular solve.
It does a blind path search, so it doesn't care whether you actually travel over it.
So be careful. So if you're trying to optimize that symbol secondary, hanging flip-flops will cost you, so don't use them. I will end the video now.